Welcome to MMA Fancast. My name's Luke, and I am honored to have Chris Huselton back on the show. Chris, welcome back.
Thanks for having me, Luke.
You were on the show not even about a month ago, little over a month ago, because you had an incredible, very fast knockout. It's debated on exactly how fast it was. Officially, Tapology has it at 12 seconds. That seems about right. Might have been sub 10. I think you and I think it was 7 or 8, but regardless. What's exciting is that was March 18th. You're now all signed up to fight for New Line Cage Fighting May 13th, 2 Saturdays away, a little over 2 weeks away. You got a great opponent with a good amount of experience and a good record. What led you to jump back? I know you said on the show that you wanted a kind of a quick turnaround fight. So what led you to take this fight? And what are your thoughts going into it? It's New Line Cagefighting 16. The name is Brawl at the Bridge. It's going to be May 13th in Bridgeport, West Virginia at the Bridge Sports Complex, hence the name Brawl on the Bridge. Take it away, Chris. What are your thoughts on jumping into this fight?
Yeah, I was just excited to get a quick turnaround. I took no damage that last fight, so we figured why not jump back in there. I had a long layoff, so I'm definitely trying to make up for lost time, just with my knee injury and everything I had to deal with that. So I was very happy to get an opportunity to get right back in there. This fight came together probably 2 weeks after that, my last one, and it's a good opponent. I'm excited for it. He's ranked number 1 at light heavyweight for West Virginia. And I'm hoping that with a victory over him, I can set myself up with something pretty nice. So I'm looking forward to it. He is a kickboxer. I've seen some tape on him. He's got some good kickboxing, so it'll be an interesting matchup for sure.
Yeah, I had seen that as well. You obviously watched tape. I checked them out on Tapology. They have what looks like 4 kickboxing, three kickboxing fights, at least what's recorded. They're not always recorded, but it looks like, yeah, he has some experience, has more wins than losses in kickboxing, including some knockouts. And of course, even though you've only had 3 fights, you know, that incredible knockout kind of makes people excited because this is a striker versus striker. For you, how important is it to challenge yourself against the guy who obviously has knockouts? You have knockouts. Do you see this as kind of a great matchup for both of you?
Yeah, it's definitely. I definitely like the matchup. Me being from a wrestling, grappling gym, taking on a striker. I guess you would say, like, when you run into that, I would have the advantage.
Right.
But nonetheless, he's a tough opponent, and I'm pretty confident in my striking. I know I only have 1 knockout on record, but I've put in so many hours with Chris Williams that I am not afraid to stand toe-to-toe with anybody. I will take that challenge on anytime, and I'm excited for it. I'm really excited to test myself against a proven striker that has multiple knockouts, so
Yeah.
I am excited.
And I think that is the confidence. You mentioned Chris Williams, a really great boxing coach and trains a lot of
Best in Pittsburgh, best striking coach in Pittsburgh.
Best striking coach in Pittsburgh, absolutely, and has trained. He seems to train a lot out of the Mat Factory and the Academy. I'm sure he trains some other guys, but I know he's trained a lot of people out of the Mat Factory. Talk also a little bit about the fact that because this is an MMA fight, so obviously I'm hoping to be there. I'm hoping to watch you because last time it was a blink and you miss it fight. Obviously, your opponent, Chase Stafford, is, like you said, a proven striker with at least 2 kickboxing knockouts in the first round and maybe more, depending on what's going on. But you do train at the Mat Factory, who obviously it's a legendary gym. You talk about a great coach in Isaac Greeley. He's a legend. He's probably the best, if not one of the best coaches around in Pittsburgh. I mean, you know, he's just incredible. He's already in the 247 FC Hall of Fame, the only member of the Hall of Fame currently. So what's it like, confidence level? You've talked a little bit about striking and the confidence that working with Chris Williams, which is obviously incredible. What's it like working at the Mat Factory? Chris Dempsey, he's a your size guy because, he used to fight at your weight class in the UFC. What's it like rolling with Chris Dempsey and getting all the coaching there at the Mat Factory?
Oh man, like today, Sunday, Sundays at the Mat Factory are super intense. Like today, Isaac had us. He's like, if you're not ready to, put it all on the line today, like you shouldn't be here. Like we go really hard, and just being around guys like him and Chris Dempsey that have that like-minded mentality of like, we're gonna work hard, we're gonna go, and we're gonna keep going. And he working with those guys, it's just incredible. And Chris is a good buddy of mine too. We're in fantasy football, like outside of training, but working with him has been really big. That's why I choose him and Chris to be in my corner. Yeah, I love Isaac, and I'll always have Isaac, and he always has my back, and I know that 100%. But I work a lot with Chris Dempsey. Like I get to grapple with him daily, and we're similar size. And I mean, he puts it on me. He beats me, but it's always for my benefit, And he's turned into one hell of a coach as well. He's been kind of taking over a lot of the practices and really showing his leadership and dedication to our gym. And it's been proven. I mean, our practices are insane, and the results are starting to prove themselves. And it's just good work. Like I couldn't ask God for a better situation to be landed at the Mat Factory. That's for sure.
Well, that's a great attitude to have of Thanksgiving. Praise the Lord for a great network of a family around you. The Mat Factory, for people probably know that Chris Dempsey is a legendary MMA fighter in his own right, fought in the UFC. But like you pointed out, for all of his success as a fighter, he's become probably even kind of more important as a coach at the Mat Factory, and also an incredibly high level professional jiu-jitsu practitioner. I know now he primarily is focusing on and being incredibly successful as a jiu-jitsu guy at the pro level, all the stuff. In fact, I had a nice conversation right before 247 Brandenburg 16, that incredible sold-out show at the event center held at the Meadows Casino, the Hollywood Casino at the Meadows. But what's interesting is backstage, which is always just so fun, all the fighters, all the coaches, two legends, Chris Dempsey and Mike Wilkins, who are both now kind of at that black belt pro jiu-jitsu level of their career. They were talking about tournaments and what they were doing. Mike Wilkins had just done a tournament earlier that morning on April 15th. And then, of course, he was coaching stout guys. It was just really exciting. But to see both Chris Dempsey and Mike Williams talking about kind of their jiu-jitsu careers currently, both very high-level guys. They love the joke that they get mistaken for each other. They kind of do. They kind of look enough alike that some people mistake them for each other. For you, with this big fight against a known striker, for you, do you kind of want to go in there and win in kickboxing? Do you want to take him down and get a great submission, which I think would still mean a lot because obviously you train with a submission monster in Chris Dempsey? Or at the same time, is it, which I think it's fine to answer this way, is it just about getting the win whichever way it comes? Let's talk a little bit about predictions or what you want to see happen in the fight.
So, just to, I guess, go back, my previous fight, I guess you could say the one I lost, I felt I needed to prove something. I needed to prove I could strike. I felt like I needed to step in there and win this certain way to prove I'm all around in all these areas, which, that's great. But at the end of the day, I want to finish. If it's a knockout, that's great. If it's a submission, that's great, because one way or another, it's got to be earned. Nothing's given. And I just want to prove that I'm an overall martial artist. I love boxing. I'll stand and box with anybody. I love grappling. I'll grapple with anybody, but I want to show everybody that I can mix it up the best. And I just want to prove myself that I'm well-rounded in all areas. Would it be great to get a knockout over a kickboxer? Absolutely. That would be huge if I get a big knockout over a kickboxer. But if I submit him, hey, the win's a win, and that's all that matters. And I'm just going to keep climbing the rankings until I get my name where I want it to be, and that's all that matters to me.
Yeah, and it sounds like you learned a lot about yourself in that fight versus Muhammad Kami, and kind of the concept that MMA is so entertaining and so incredible because it's about finding a way to win within the rule set. Of course, we've seen UFC fights that are basically Muay Thai fights, which I love watching. But at any
Yeah.
point in time, either of the combatants could make it grappling or wrestling or clinching or whatever, And so I think it's really good that you've learned that your second fight out, that you learned that it's really about getting the win. It's about figuring out where you can get the win the best. We even saw that it was an incredible 247 fight with Victor Lopari, who's incredibly well known in the Canonsburg area, 3-0, and I wish all the best for him. He was back on the show. Can't wait to see what he does. Trains out of Extreme Couture. He's a incredibly good ground and pound wrestler, very high level, and his opponent got dominated in the first round, but then in the second round kept it standing and was able to knock out Victor Lepar. And I think that's a great example. Obviously, Victor has some things to tweak. He said on this show that he's not going to lose again, which is great. He said Alexander Volkanovski had a very similar career where he got knocked out early and then kind of made changes. So I wish that for him. I would love to have him back on and talk about his future career. But I think Cody Matthews showed that you got to find a way to win. And Cody Matthews probably wasn't going to find a way to win on the ground. Not that he couldn't, but it just wasn't the easiest way to victory after being on your back for roughly 5 minutes eating ground and pound. Instead, he turned the table. So it's kind of like no matter what happens Saturday, if you're able to figure out a way to win, that's what matters. Whether it's a complete game change, plan change, if it's striking one round and then you go grappling, or grappling one round and then go striking, but whatever it is, I think you really have the mindset of find a way to win with like as the fights unfolding. What do you think your fight IQ is? Because we talked a little bit about that. Talk a little bit about developing your fight IQ, your ability, because it's very easy to get that like horse blinder focus of just what's happening in front of you. How good do you think your fight IQ is? Meaning your ability to understand what's going on and what you need to do. Training with Chris Dempsey, I'm sure has helped that a lot.
I mean, I don't like to brag or talk about myself, but I do believe I have a pretty high fight IQ. I mean, I work some of the best, like Chris Williams and I. Every session I get with him, every private, it's like we're just dissecting things one at a time. We're always like picking up, like there's certain things that we'll do. We'll just be running a drill, and I'll add like a little spin on it, and it's like, oh, like we just like it's just a whole new thing developed. And we figure out where we can apply that in certain situations in the fight. And just working with Chris Dempsey and Isaac, like the way we game plan for these fights, like we don't worry about what they're gonna do. We worry about what we're gonna do. And even though the guy I'm fighting, he's well versed in stand up, and I'm sure I have a game plan for that. Like
Sure.
I know what.
Of course.
And I don't know. I would believe I have a pretty decent high fight IQ. I watch a ton of film. I'm always like watching like UFC fights, kickboxing, Muay Thai, wrestling, all that. So I'm pretty well involved, and I feel confident in myself.
Well, I think that's a very balanced answer. The humility, but also the confidence in what you've been doing. I appreciate you coming back on the fight. We've crossed off kind of the list of what we want to talk about. Your opponent, you gave respect to him. He's got good experience, and that's what you want. You want to challenge yourself. You've talked about all your coaches, your sparring partners. Who else do you want to either thank or bring up before we wrap up? Because I can't wait for May 13th for the new Line Cagefighting number 16 for you.
Yeah, I want to give a shout out to all my heavyweights in the Mat Factory, like Cody Gant, Jay Pip, Julian Flannery. The sparring rounds that I get with those guys alone is second to none. The work that we get, like even today on Sunday, it was a 4-man group of us just constantly wrestling, one man in the center. And my gosh, like if those walls could speak, man, you hear some stories. But the work I get with those guys is second to none, and I really appreciate all that they've done to help me get ready for this fight and in this camp. And I got to shout out Chris Williams, Chris Dempsey, Isaac, all them guys. But everybody at the Mat Factory, everybody that supports me, my family, my girlfriend's family, they're all great, big supporters of me doing this, and I appreciate all that support.
Well, I appreciate you coming on the show, and a great way to end on the shout out with Jay Pip. and Julian Flannery, who's the highest ranked heavyweight in our region out of hundreds of heavyweights, and then of course also Cody the Incredible Gamble. And it also goes to show that it is important that gyms kind of get multiple guys around the same weight class. The four of you being able to drill and train together, even though you're light heavyweight, but you fought, I mean, you're at that light heavyweight. I think that's a great group of four. There's a lot. I mean, Jay Pips is a tall, long, big guy at that size. And then you've got two power guys, kind of like the grappling power guys, and then yourself. So I'm excited to kind of think about that Bioverse that says iron sharpens iron. And that's really what you're talking about. You're talking about all four of you are really dangerous fighters. I think if people know the Mat Factory, all four of you guys have a great fan following and a lot of great fights. So Comanche, thanks so much for coming on the show. I can't wait to see you live in action May 13th. I'm sure there's tickets still available, so go to New Line Cagefighting 16. Get tickets from the Mat Factory or from Chris himself. Always helps the fighters to buy from either the fighters directly or from the team if the team has any available tickets. Thanks so much.
Thanks, Luke. Appreciate it.
You got it. All right. See you then. Bye-bye.